Ever clicked on a pint of Ben & Jerry's at your local store and wondered exactly how it transforms from fresh milk at a Vermont farm into a pint of dense, chunk-filled delight? Some might assume it's just a matter of mixing cream and sugar, freezing it, and slapping on a label. In reality, the journey is far more intricate, laden with industrial machinery, scientific precision, and some whispered controversies you'd never guess lie behind those groovy designs. Today, we'll explore the entire life cycle of how this famous ice cream gets mass-produced, and along the way, we'll delve into the swirl of rumors, brand philosophies, and corporate complexities that have shaped Ben & Jerry's into the icon it is. If you're watching this, you're probably craving both the behind-the-scenes scoop and the sweet taste of the final product. Believe it or not, every pint begins miles away from the manufacturing lines, deep in the pastoral landscapes of Vermont. Tanker trucks, sometimes decked out in whimsical designs or brand logos, regularly roll through narrow rural roads to collect fresh milk from local farms. Each of these farms is part of a cooperative that has historically prided itself on sustainable practices, though skeptics occasionally question the real meaning of sustainability when the scale of operations grows so large. Most fans, however, appreciate that Ben & Jerry's started in this region and still champions the notion of supporting local economies. The milk, stored cold in the tankers, is tested for temperature, antibiotic residues, and overall quality before it's even allowed to enter the production facility's giant receiving silos. These cylindrical behemoths, each holding thousands of gallons, look almost futuristic compared to the scenic barns just a few miles down the road. Once the milk passes inspection, workers pump it into the first phase of transformation, blending it with rich cream and sugar to create the ice cream's base. This is arguably one of the most critical steps because the precise ratio of sugar, dairy fats, and other foundational elements determines the flavor and texture that Ben & Jerry's fans have come to love. If you've ever tasted a subpar imitation of the brand, you might notice a thinner mouthfeel or an overly sweet taste that lacks depth. Such is the importance of getting the balance just right. Though the brand has grown exponentially, employees say the fundamental recipes haven't wavered from the early days, though rumors occasionally surface online that certain cost-saving measures might have altered the composition over time. Officially, the company denies any compromise on base quality, claiming that consistency is paramount. One of the most visually striking moments in the factory occurs when these massive vats of unflavored base are heated and then cooled in rapid succession, a process known as pasteurization. Hot steel plates swiftly bring the mixture to a temperature high enough to eradicate harmful bacteria. But the trick is to ensure that this heating phase doesn't degrade the flavor or scorch the cream. After just a brief stay in pasteurization, the mixture is cooled back down and funneled into holding tanks, where it's allowed to rest for several hours. This rest period is said to allow flavors to meld and the base to reach the perfect viscosity for the next step. Imagine rows of towering stainless steel cylinders, connected by an intricate network of pipes overhead, each with a gauge or digital readout to monitor temperature and flow rate. The hum of machinery and the constant interplay of heat and cold give the facility a futuristic aura, even though the brand has been around for decades. Longtime insiders say that in the early years, pasteurization and cooling were far more manual, and that the shift to modern automation increased production speed many-fold. Though some nostalgic fans romanticize the days of smaller batch output. With the base perfected, the next phase involves one of the brand's most essential selling points: flavoring. While classic flavors like vanilla or chocolate pass through fairly straightforward processes, more elaborate varieties might require fruit purees, concentrated extracts, or carefully melted fudge. These flavor additions happen in specialized vessels known as flavor vats, each uniquely calibrated to blend certain ingredients while maintaining the ideal temperature. Picture the sweet smell of strawberry puree mingling with the scent of rich cocoa powder in adjacent steel tanks, as technicians scurry to ensure that the mixing arms churn at the right speed. The brand invests heavily in research and development, often experimenting with whimsical combinations like crème brûlée with caramelized sugar flakes or cannoli with ricotta swirls. Fans who follow these experiments on social media get hints of new releases, but behind the scenes, entire teams conduct taste tests to decide which flavors make the cut. Rumor has it that some flavors never see the light of day because they either fail stability tests, if a swirl separates or a chunk gets soggy, or they just aren't well received by internal testers. As soon as the flavored base is ready, it's pumped into what might be the most awe-inspiring piece of machinery on the factory floor: the freezing barrel. This machine is like a giant, continuously running ice cream churn that cools the liquid base to sub-freezing temperatures in seconds. It's all about controlling crystal formation, because no one wants icy, grainy ice cream. Inside, paddles rotate at high speed, incorporating a precise amount of air, referred to in the ice cream world as overrun. Premium brands generally keep overrun low to maintain a dense, luscious texture. However, swirling rumors hold that as production scales, some brands might be tempted to increase the overrun and cut costs by pumping in extra air. Ben & Jerry's has consistently promised to preserve that famously thick, heavy spoonful in every pint. Critics keep a watchful eye, but so far, taste tests haven't shown any suspicious increase in fluffiness. Emerging from the freezing barrel, the mixture is at a consistency similar to soft serve, cold yet pliable enough to accommodate the brand's hallmark, giant chunks. Whether it's fudge brownies, cookie dough, peanut butter cups, or swirl ribbons of caramel, these mix-ins set the product apart from many competitors. The brand's co-founder, Ben Cohen, famously had a diminished sense of taste and smell, which is partly why the chunks are so large, to ensure maximum texture. The chunk feeder looms over the production line like a mechanical giant. Boxes or crates of mix-ins, some from local suppliers like Greyston Bakery for brownies, are funneled in, and the machine disperses them uniformly throughout the flowing ice cream. An uneven mix-in ratio can spark social media uproar if, say, a batch doesn't have enough cookie dough in chocolate chip cookie dough. Because of this risk, line workers constantly monitor chunk distribution, running visual checks, and the brand invests in sensors that track how often chunks are introduced. An LED display might flash data showing how many pounds of brownies passed through in the last hour, ensuring each bite is equally decadent. Once every swirl, chunk, and ribbon is in place, the semi-frozen ice cream rides conveyor belts toward the pint filling station. This is a mesmerizing display of synchronized precision. Rows of empty pints shoot forward, nozzles plunge down to fill them with carefully measured amounts of that luscious mixture. Then lids snap on in almost the same motion. If you blink, you might miss the entire sequence. The machine can fill hundreds of pints per minute, each sealed tight to keep air and contaminants out. Glitches here can be costly. A misalignment might cause ice cream to spill, or a lid might fail to seal. While modern technology helps minimize errors, you'll still hear stories about line stoppages causing meltdown messes on the floor. And of course, a single mechanical fault can bring production to a screeching halt, leading to frantic repairs, while partially filled pints must be discarded. From there, every pint proceeds down the line to a small army of inspectors who periodically pull samples off the conveyor. They'll weigh the container, peel off the lid, and cut through the ice cream to check chunk distribution. They also watch for air pockets or uneven swirl dispersion. If something looks off, maybe a fudge ripple is missing or the cookie dough lumps congregated at the bottom, the entire batch might be flagged for additional scrutiny. These repeated checks maintain consistency, but they also feed the rumor mill. Some ex-employees or critics claim that the brand occasionally reworks or reuses slightly off-spec ice cream, whereas official statements say anything that doesn't meet quality standards is scrapped. Regardless, the brand is known for taking these checks seriously, because a single online post about an underchunked pint can tarnish the brand's reputation for abundant mix-ins. Next, the sealed pints enter the spiral hardener, a massive corkscrew-shaped freezer tunnel that runs from floor to ceiling. Inside this chamber, the pints slowly ascend on a conveyor, taking about 2 to 3 hours to freeze solid. Doing this at such frigid temperatures prevents large ice crystals from forming, guaranteeing that trademark creamy texture. The spiral design saves space while maximizing freeze time. Some visitors describe it as the most captivating part of the factory. Hundreds of pints methodically climbing in a never-ending, ultra-cold helix. Employees note that if the spiral ever malfunctions, all that partially frozen ice cream risks spoilage. Over the years, there have been a few rumored breakdowns, but the brand invests heavily in maintaining these freezers to avoid meltdown nightmares. By the time a pint completes this upward journey, it's locked into the texture you'll experience at home, sturdy yet still scoopable right out of the freezer. Finally, the ice cream emerges rock solid and ready for packaging. Here, groups of pints are shrink-wrapped into sets of 8, arranged onto pallets and rolled into refrigerated trucks. These trucks maintain the low temperatures needed to keep the ice cream from thawing. Depending on demand, shipments might head across the country or even overseas. Ben & Jerry's, now part of a global conglomerate, distributes its products to over 35 countries. While the brand started as a small scoop shop in Burlington, Vermont, the scale today is enormous, a fact that rankles some purists who worry the company might have lost its small business charm. Controversies occasionally flare up, like accusations surfaced about whether the brand still upholds its original social and environmental commitments. Some fans lament that corporate ownership might overshadow the brand's once iconic activism. The flip side is that the company's growth has funded social initiatives, from climate justice campaigns to fair trade sourcing expansions. However you view it, there's no question that scaling to a global market has changed the dynamics behind each pint. So how does this massive operation intertwine with the famously quirky ethos of Ben & Jerry's? Historically, the brand has been as known for its progressive stances on social issues as for its decadent ice cream. Co-founders, Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield, were often outspoken on topics ranging from income inequality to environmental protection. While they're no longer at the helm of day-to-day operations, the brand continues to weigh in on contentious issues, sometimes sparking heated debates among consumers. For instance, critics have questioned the sincerity of activism once a brand becomes part of a multinational corporation. Others argue that having a bigger platform amplifies the brand's voice, letting them funnel resources into philanthropic causes. One prime example is the company's emphasis on fair trade ingredients. They source cocoa, vanilla, and coffee from farmers who are reportedly guaranteed fair prices. That mission resonates with many, though a small faction remains skeptical about whether these claims always align with reality on the ground. Despite these debates, the bedrock of the brand remains the ice cream itself. Consumers flock to new releases, like a swirl-laden collaboration with a popular band, or a flavor that references a cultural or political moment, while old favorites like Cherry Garcia or Half-Baked maintain evergreen popularity. Each flavor has its own passionate following, and if the brand ever contemplates discontinuing one, they're met with fierce protest from fans. This interplay of creative flavors and consumer devotion underscores why each detail of the production process is so carefully managed. One slip in quality, or a rumor that brownies have shrunk in size, can send devoted followers into a tizzy. Over the years, the brand has developed a near-legendary aura, proof that something as simple as ice cream can evoke both comfort and controversy in the public sphere. But what happens to the leftover scraps or flavors that don't make the cut? Sometimes a short-lived flavor joins the brand's flavor graveyard, an actual tourist attraction in Vermont where they commemorate discontinued flavors with tongue-in-cheek gravestones. Visitors wander through a small field, reading comedic epitaphs for flavors that failed to catch on. While many see it as part of the brand's playful identity, critics wonder if it's a reminder that not every experimental flavor can survive the rigors of mass production and consumer preference. The brand, of course, frames it as a testament to constant innovation, an unwavering quest to discover the next big favorite. Overly complicated flavors might not pass the technical demands of large-scale freezing, which can cause certain ingredients to degrade or intensify in unexpected ways. So the brand tests meticulously. From swirl stability to chunk consistency, it's a labyrinth of potential pitfalls that might kill a flavor before it reaches a national launch. Stepping beyond flavor wars and production lines, there's also the question of how the brand interacts with dairy farmers. The official position is that they have a caring dairy program, encouraging humane and eco-friendly practices. They highlight stories of family farmers who have modernized their barns for energy efficiency or treat cows with specialized comfort measures like water sprinklers on hot days. Yet, organizations concerned about large-scale dairy argue that no brand scaling to millions of pints per month can realistically keep a perfect handle on all suppliers. Occasionally, headlines allege subpar conditions or environmental footprints that overshadow the brand's folksy marketing image. Those claims often fade after the brand reaffirms its commitment to better oversight, invests in local communities, or clarifies a misunderstanding. Still, for discerning consumers, the tension remains. Can a big corporation truly maintain a community-focused approach when its products now fill aisles across 5 continents? Then there's Unilever, the global conglomerate that acquired Ben & Jerry's in 2000. For a while, fans worried the beloved brand would lose its soul under corporate watch. The founders negotiated an unusual agreement to preserve their mission-driven approach, stipulating an independent board charged with upholding social values. While that board still influences decisions, cynics argue that the brand's rebellious streak has softened over the years. The brand occasionally takes stances on social justice issues, and though it generates headlines, critics claim these acts don't carry the same grassroots spontaneity they had in the 80s and 90s. Company statements counter that they're operating on a bigger stage now, so the approach and style might naturally evolve. Regardless of where you stand, the tension between brand identity and corporate structure remains a central theme in the ongoing story of Ben & Jerry's. As for the factory floors themselves, guided tours have become a tourist attraction in Vermont. Families stroll through, glimpsing a sanitized version of the high-powered production line from behind glass windows. They learn about how each step protects texture, flavor, and consistency. They even get free samples at the end, a highlight for kids and adults alike. Many visitors walk away charmed, impressed by the brand's transparency in showing what is, to be fair, a heavily curated look at mass production. But even the polished tours reveal glimpses of the labyrinth of pipes snaking overhead, the teams in white lab coats checking quality data on digital screens, and the whir of machinery that rarely stops. If a visitor arrives on a day they're making a fan-favorite flavor like Chunky Monkey, they might see entire crates of bananas being pureed or get a whiff of melted chocolate wafting through. It's an immersive experience that cements the brand's place as more than just a name on a carton. It's practically an American institution in the eyes of many. When everything is weighed, sealed, and hardened, and the pints are loaded onto pallets for shipping, the focus shifts from production to distribution logistics. Reefer, refrigerated trucks head out daily, some going just a few states away, others venturing to ports for international destinations. Temperature monitors inside these trucks keep tabs on the cargo, ensuring a stable climate below freezing. If sensors detect a temperature spike, the shipping company notifies the brand to see if the load can be salvaged or if it must be scrapped. On rare occasions, logistical hiccups lead to partial thawing, in which case the entire shipment is deemed unsellable, a costly but necessary sacrifice to maintain consumer trust. Despite the brand's best efforts, rumors about partially refrozen pints occasionally pop up on social media, accompanied by pictures of strangely crystallized ice cream. Investigations usually reveal some shipping mistake or a store freezer malfunction. Given the scale of distribution, such slip-ups are nearly impossible to avoid entirely, yet the brand's stance is that any recognized slip in quality is swiftly rectified. So, by the time you pop open a pint in your kitchen, you're holding the result of countless checks, tests, corporate decisions, and centuries worth of dairy farming knowledge refined into one indulgent dessert. The swirl of chocolate fudge or caramel, the lumps of cookie dough or peanut butter, the subtle background note of sweet cream, they're all the culminations of science, technique, and maybe a little bit of that small-town spirit that launched Ben & Jerry's in the 1970s. It's a testament to how something as commonplace as ice cream can capture hearts, spark heated debates, and command a loyal following worldwide. Those who grew up with it might recall the first time they scooped out a chunk-laden cone of Cherry Garcia or tasted a swirl so decadent it felt like a revelation. Over the decades, the brand's whimsical flavors have served as conversation pieces, bridging generational gaps at family reunions or fueling late-night college dorm discussions. This cultural presence is arguably as significant a part of the brand's identity as the product itself. Of course, if you dig deeper, you'll find more complexities than sprinkles on a sundae. Discussions about worker wages in the factory, supply chain ethics for ingredients like cocoa and vanilla, or the environmental impact of dairy farming run parallel to the sweet marketing campaigns and philanthropic press releases. But that contrast between a conscientious brand identity and the realities of large-scale production might just be part of the brand's unique charm. They never claim to be perfect, only to strive for improvement in the face of growing demands. Whether you view that as savvy public relations or genuine effort might depend on how closely you follow their behind-the-scenes stories, and whether you believe big brands can truly champion social causes without compromise. Yet here's the final question. Does any of this knowledge about fast conveyors, chunk feeders, or boardroom debates make that first bite of thick, velvety ice cream taste different? For many enthusiasts, the drama behind the scenes fades to background noise as soon as the lid pops open, replaced by the immediate delight of cold sweetness and decadent toppings. Others keep these considerations front and center, insisting we should hold all big corporations, especially ones that posture as socially responsible, accountable. Whichever perspective you take, it's undeniable that Ben & Jerry's has revolutionized not just a dessert, but a collective cultural experience. They turned ice cream into a platform for conversation, activism, and yes, consumer gratification on a massive scale. So the next time you find yourself in front of a grocery freezer, scanning row upon row of chunky flavors and pun-heavy names, you'll have a deeper appreciation for the monumental effort that goes into each pint. From the hooves of Vermont cows to the hush of 90-60-degree spiral tunnels, from the raucous chunk feeder that ensures every scoop has its fair share of goodies, to the quality checks that aim to preserve the brand's chunk-filled promise, every step converges into that single spoonful. And maybe you'll recall the swirl of controversies, the balance of activism and corporate growth, and the possibility that behind each whimsical carton lies more complexity than you might expect. In the end, though, as you savor a bite of that thick, flavor-packed creation, you're tasting the culmination of decades of innovation, passion, and yes, maybe a little bit of rebellious spirit that refuses to settle for plain old vanilla. That's the essence of Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Mass-produced, yet somehow still personal, storied with anecdotes of farm-fresh milk and social crusades, and flavored with a hint of counterculture that has survived more corporate shifts than many would have predicted. It remains a testament to how, in the realm of sweet treats, a bold vision and some truly enormous machinery can come together to create something that feels comforting and surprising all at once. At its core, perhaps that's what keeps people intrigued year after year. It's not merely about the chunks and swirls. It's about the sense that, despite everything, there's still a scoop of hope and a dash of mischief hidden in each pint, waiting to delight everyone who peels back the lid and digs in, spoon at the ready, expecting more than just an ordinary dessert.